Well, the ongoing contract dispute between Air Canada and the pilots union threatens to disrupt travel plans for many this weekend. It could upend thousands of business trips, vacations, as well as cargo shipments. As CBC's Peter Cowan reports, businesses on the East Coast that depend on tourism are already feeling the impact.
Most people arriving on the island of Newfoundland do so by air, and the majority fly Air Canada. But now, even before starting their vacation, visitors aren't sure how it'll end.
It's quite worrisome because I'm here and how will I get back? It's a little far to walk.
The union representing pilots can issue a 72-hour strike notice as of Sunday. A lockout notice is also possible. Air Canada says it'll have to start winding down flights in anticipation as early as Friday. A strike would ground all flights by Wednesday. Already, pilots have set up a strike headquarters in Toronto. Wages remain one of the big issues. The pilots are looking for a big increase to close the gap with their American counterparts.
I'm cautiously optimistic. The last week or so seems to have been productive at the negotiating table. As you can see here, we're ready for any eventuality.
But Air Canada is warning the federal government may need to step in if a deal isn't reached.
We have accepted changes to over 70% of the collective bargaining agreement, but we are now faced with unreasonable wage demands that unfortunately we cannot meet.
The tourism industry is also on edge and putting pressure on government.
A labor disruption in air travel won't just leave people stranded, it will ripple through the economy, hitting small business owners who are already struggling to make it.
The best deals happen at the bargaining table.
The federal government is still hoping this will be resolved through negotiation, not arbitration, but some travelers aren't waiting to find out. Back in Newfoundland, hotels are getting an increase in cancellations.
We're not going to be able to get the opportunity to make up this business. So, and for many of us, it's the profit.
Air Canada is letting passengers rebook their flights for free. Adding any cancellations by the airline will result in a refund. Peter Cowan, CBC News, St. John's.
Jasmin Guénette joins me now. Jasmin is the Vice President of National Affairs with the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. We reached him in Ottawa. Thank you so much for giving us your time here on Canada Tonight.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having us.
I know that this is there are a number of factors that are involved here, and of course businesses are high up on that list as well, along with passengers. But talk to us about the impact, if there is any level of work stoppage, what it could have on businesses.
Yeah, many small business owners are quite worried these days to have Air Canada pilots go on strike. This could have a devastating impact on many small businesses, especially those in hospitality and tourism. We're talking about loss of sales, loss of revenue. Those type of businesses rely on people coming in and showing up for events and at the dining table. And so if clients cannot travel to their conferences, if clients cannot travel to their place of leisure for vacation, many small businesses will suffer and will feel the pain of this work stoppage.
You, along with several other groups, many of your members as well, were part of that letter that was sent to the Minister of Labour, Stephen McKinnon, urging the government to step in on this, urging them to say, let us prevent a work stoppage because it is going to have a massive impact on businesses, on the movement of goods and services, on the economy. Talk to us a bit more about what you're hearing from those members and this letter that was sent.
Yeah, we sent a letter and we communicated with government to essentially asking that they don't stand just on the sideline and that they make sure that negotiations are going as well as they can be and that an agreement is reached. We're hoping that and asking that services will remain fully operational while parties are negotiating. But unfortunately, if the parties cannot reach an agreement and a work stoppage happens next week, we're calling on the government to either impose binding arbitration or introduce back to work legislation, because Small businesses rely heavily on transportation hubs such as air, ports, and rail. This work stoppage could happen a few weeks only after a devastating work stoppage that happened at CN and CPKC. And so the government really needs to be proactive. The government really needs to step in, and if negotiation fail, the government has the tool to make sure that Air Canada flights don't stay on the ground for too long.
We know that there is a dollar figure, an estimate, if you will, that the cost to these businesses. Is there a figure that you can give us in terms of if there is a work stoppage? We know, for example, with airports and in passengers, 110,000 passengers a day would be impacted. What would be the dollar amount or the estimate on businesses?
I'm not sure I can give you a dollar amount this evening on and give a scale in dollar of the impact. But think about businesses who rely on travelers. If nobody can travel on Air Canada flight, the impact will be devastating for many small businesses that rely on those people traveling. But it's not just the people traveling, it's also cargo that is transported by Air Canada flights. And so it's products not getting to a consumer. And so although I don't have a figure for you tonight, small business owners have gone through a very rough period in the last couple of years. Strike at the Port of Montreal, strike at BC ports, CN, CPKC, the St. Lawrence Seaway, the pandemic, the inflation that is hitting small businesses hard. And so the last thing that those small businesses need is another work stoppage that would paralyze the Canadian economy.
Before I let you go, Jasmin, is there any advice that you've been giving to your members to say, okay, we're waiting on the government to hopefully act on this, or a better even, a deal to be reached and we don't have to worry? But is there anything that you've been telling them to say, this is what you need to do to be prepared?
Obviously, businesses need to be aware that as of next week, air travel could be impacted by a work stoppage. But to be honest, there's very little that small businesses can do to cope with the situation. That's why we're active in the file, and we're asking government to intervene and not wait too long before putting in place measures that would make sure that a work stoppage does not happen, because unfortunately, small businesses are collateral damages of these work stoppage, and there's very few alternatives that they can have to face such a terrible situation.
We know the deadline is looming. We're keeping a close eye on it. Indeed, Jasmin, thank you so much for giving us your time today. Jasmin Guénette is the Vice President of National Affairs with the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Inna Shekhtman is certainly feeling the stress. She's an Air Canada customer awaiting news on the strike. We reached her today in Coquitlam, British Columbia. Inna, thank you so much for giving us your time today.
My pleasure.
You are supposed to travel with Air Canada in the next few days. Walk me through sort of how you're feeling. I know just even travel itself can be, can have a level of anxiety. Now you're sort of sitting into this seat of uncertainty.
Yeah, I'm pretty nervous because I'm traveling for business. It's a big deal. I'm joining my team at a trade show that's national largest pet trade show in Canada. It happens once a year, and I'm speaking at it. So I've already got a lot of things on my plate, and then having to worry about whether the flight is going to get canceled is really adding on a lot of stress for me.
So, I mean, you're not just going, you're not just needing to travel now, you're also preparing. I mean, this is also business for you as well, so it's twofold. Any contingency plans that you've been able to put in place?
Well, yeah, a couple of days ago, I received a notice from Air Canada basically saying we're going to start canceling flights. So that got me really nervous because I was really hoping that things would just get settled down. So I ended up booking a WestJet flight as a backup. My original flight with Air Canada is non-refundable. So the only way I can get my money back is if they cancel the flight, but I can't wait and see because there's virtually no flights left already because I'm sure other people are panicking. I couldn't even get a direct flight to Toronto. I had to get a stopover in Calgary, so it's already that bad.
Wow.
And I can't wait and find out what happens.
And can I ask you, in terms of the cost, are you having to pay more now to reroute yourself if needed, if that Air Canada flight essentially no longer exists?
Yeah, the flight that I booked as a backup is is more than double the cost of my original flights. And I mean, this is because it's last minute, and I'm sure the flights are filling up, and we're not going to be able to get that money back. It's already spent. So we might be able to get credits and use it for other flights, but we're a small business. Every month's cash flow matters. So this is still a hit for us.
When we look at bigger picture, and we've been in this position before, we know Air Canada, we know it was with WestJet, we know that there's sort of been a number of things that have happened that can cause disruptions at airports and airlines and whatnot. What more do you want to see being done to protect passengers, but to ensure safe travel, but continuous travel, so people such as yourself can get to where they need to go to? But businesses also, we know, are reeling from all of this, and you're on both sides of the coin on this with regards to being, an individual who needs to get somewhere, but you also have the business aspect. So what more do you want to see being done to ensure that people aren't in this situation?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, I understand labor disputes, and I mean, being in a business myself, I understand people need to have the right to negotiate their wages. But I mean, for something like this is such a big disruption, on top of already so many hard things that have happened over the last few years. I don't know what can be done other than it's got to stop at some point. We've been hammered through COVID, after COVID, supply disruptions. It just feels like it's never ending. You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh no, exactly. And it's, as you say, if it's not one thing, it's something else, and then it becomes this, continuous domino effect. What about your colleagues and those that you're supposed to be meeting up with? What are you hearing from them? Are they also in the same situation as well, perhaps having trouble getting to Toronto for this event?
I think they booked in WestJet initially, so okay. I don't think they're in that situation. But the other concern is that with so many people booking last-minute flights, or there are going to be delays. Like we've seen so many challenges with the airline industry from all over the place, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is just going to have compounding effects with so many people trying to travel and rearrange plans. Like I'm worried that even with the rebooking, that something's going to happen at this point.
And just really quickly, you mentioned there yours is a non-refundable ticket, but Air Canada, because of this situation, hasn't lifted that and said if you need to cancel this flight, you'll get your money back?
Well, no, what they said is that if they cancel the flight, then they'll refund me the money.
Okay.
But if it's a non-refundable flight, I actually can't. I can rebook it for another time, I guess, but that's not really an option for me because I'm traveling for a show that's in a specific date.
I'm wishing you well. I'm hoping that it's not a stressful weekend for you as you're sort of going to be watching and tracking things, and hopefully things can move on, and people such as the thousands, tens of thousands of passengers relying on Air Canada can get into the skies and get to where they need to go. Inna, thank you so much for this. Inna Shekhtman is an Air Canada customer awaiting news on this strike. Inna, thank you again for this.
You're welcome.